Hello there and welcome. It's Psychic Cynthia here, Spiritual Psychic Cynthia Killian. And I'm logging on today to talk about some deep, powerful energies that are being stirred and activated right now. And for a while, into the future actually. I'm filming this video in early August of 2022. And we're in the so-called Lion's Gate, which happens every year. And that has to do with the star Sirius, so that'll be another video for another time. But today I'm really tuning into the feminine energies that are being stimulated now, the Mother Earth energies. And what's happening, in the cosmos. And maybe I should talk for a moment about that. I love to study and practice astrology. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I'm a very serious student and, I guess, writer, teacher on astrology. It's been part of my past since childhood, actually. But I'm also very much into the earth-based shamanic traditions, and that kind of might surprise you that, there's a person who's so much down to earth and into the earth and into the herbs and the plant medicine and talking with the fairies and the trees. And then here I am also connecting with, the stars, astrology and ETs and all of that. That may seem very opposite to you, but in fact it's not. Because there is an old saying that it really, will explain it quite succinctly, and that is that old saying, you've probably heard it, as above, so below. So if we really want to understand, ourselves, the universe, all of it, the earth even, we also need to understand the cosmos. We need to look at those patterns through whatever system we do it. I happen to be a Western astrologer. There are, Eastern astrologers, East Indian astrologers, and there are Asian astrologers too. There are actually different systems of astrology. I really think that it doesn't matter which one you do as long as you do the one you're called to, and as long as you study, you think about, you contemplate the movement of the planets and the stars. And even if you don't study those systems, which I highly recommend that you do, just tuning in and looking up at the stars, because what's happening up there is a reflection of what is happening down here. Now, does it cause it? I really don't know. I think it's possible. I mean, I'm a mystic, not a scientist, but there have been scientists who have done studies that, relating to electromagnetic energy and gravity of planets, planetary energy, maybe even stars. I mean, we know these bodies have gravity and all kinds of electromagnetism, so yeah, it's possible that it causes it. I don't know, but I know it correlates. So what's happening in the cosmos right now, if you wanted to get your telescope out and look at it or do your astrology, yesterday actually we just had an alignment with Uranus and Mars, and this alignment this is in Taurus at 18 degrees Taurus, which we'll talk about that in a moment. That's very significant, that particular degree, not just the sign, the degree. But this is, Mars is a really masculine, active, sometimes angry, warlike planet, and it brings up our anger, which can be a good thing. I mean, it can be, if you can face your anger and see it and see what you're angry about, that can be a signal to you of where perhaps you need greater boundaries, but also maybe where you need greater accountability with yourself. I mean, yes, we need boundaries with other people, but sometimes we just get pissed off at other people when really we know deep down inside we're mad at ourselves for not doing what we said we would do, not taking care of ourselves, not saying no. And I'm not saying you should blame yourself. I'm actually saying you shouldn't blame anybody. But you should, look at the situation as calmly and objectively as you can, which might not be very calm at the moment because the emotions are high. And if you happen to be watching this right around the time that I'm filming it, rather than a few months later, and by the way, it will be useful for you a few months later, but right now, because of the Mars element that is happening in the cosmos. Well, it's not an element, but the aspect of Mars aligning with Uranus and the North Node, just be aware that there are a lot of unresolved angers coming up. And so I guess my point with this is, and Taurus is considered a feminine sign, even though its symbol is the bull, and that's obviously a masculine, strut itself kind of sign. But Taurus is, feminine in polarity. In other words, it is yin. It is yin. And it is the earthiest of the earth sign. And if you think about it, in the elements of astrology, we have the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water. But earth is the only element that is also directly connected to, like, it's a planet, right? Like, earth is a planet. And I find that kind of interesting. So these earth signs, especially Taurus being a fixed earth sign, being the first of the earth signs, they are, when something happens, a shift in the cosmos happens in Taurus especially, or an earth sign, this is really speaking of things that are happening on Earth, in the 3D realm, and with Mother Earth, the planet, with Gaia. And sometimes we talk about collective consciousness. Well, there's collective human consciousness, but we're also part of a larger collective consciousness. We're part of nature. There is the nature consciousness, and there is the consciousness of Mother Earth herself. So this is being stimulated by it, and so there's a lot of, you can call it collective. I'd like to really use the word planetary. I would like to just use the word earth, okay? Like Mother Earth's anger, all of the unprocessed anger is coming up. It's sort of being triggered right now, and it is a very feminine energy. Make no mistake, Earth has a consciousness, and she is feminine. All these planets and stars have their own consciousness and identities. Like Mars. Mars is very masculine. So Mars doesn't actually operate very well in Taurus in some ways. And I would know, I have my natal Mars in Taurus actually, so I know a little bit about this. But not a natal chart, just talking about like Mars right now in the sky. Oh, that's so cool too. As I'm filming this video, there's a hawk flying overhead in the middle of the city. Oh, two. So, yeah, the hawks are like Mars sometimes. They're swooping, they're going after what they want, right? So that's the positive energy of Mars. That's that warrior energy. We're talking about a warrior energy. But the Earth, she's a mother, okay? And with this conjunction with Uranus, that planetary energy is very much a liberator. It is very much about throwing off shackles. It's about liberating oneself. A lot of times it can be political, so we seek to overthrow structures in our lives, or authority figures that we think are oppressing us, and maybe they are, actually. But when we start to work in metaphysics and spirituality, we understand that the mechanisms of oppression start in our own inner consciousness. In other words, as we rise up in our inner consciousness and awaken, we come into a different frequency that, won't allow oppression, actually, won't stand for it. The thing is, we haven't come up to that frequency. Well, we have before on Earth, actually, at different times, but currently, we're not there right now. We're not in that frequency collectively where we're truly seeking freedom, because with that freedom comes accountability, self-accountability, responsibility. And I mean for your energy, for basically management of your consciousness and energy. So there's a lot of anger coming up right now with this shift. A lot of unresolved, I would say, feminine anger, especially the feminine anger, because Mother Earth is being triggered by this. So for women who are watching this, which I know many of you, for my fellow sisters in this life, you might feel very angry. There might even be political issues that are triggering you, and you might find yourself all of a sudden really angry in your relationship. You might feel angry towards men, like this could be triggered by this. But the thing is, you have to really self-awareness right now to know which parts of this anger are yours and which are not. I actually woke up yesterday on the day that this Mars-Uranus-North Node alignment was exact. As I was waking up, and I don't know if I was dreaming about it, maybe, but I felt so angry about relationships and things in my life, all kinds of things. And in a way, it felt like it came out of nowhere, but I mean, I also felt angry about the last 2 years, the losses that, occurred during COVID. I don't mean people that died from COVID. I didn't have anybody in my life that did. I'm not saying, I'm sorry if you did, but I just didn't have that experience. Well, maybe one person who was older. It was sort of a sub-condition, but the losses of, I don't want to just say freedom, the losses of community, the way, yeah, you probably know what I mean if you've been alive the last 2 years. I don't need to elaborate. Everybody's experience is different, but, there is some loss with it. So I felt that anger come up, and it was really strong, and all kinds of anger. And the thing is, I hadn't even been conscious of this. But my husband lately had told me that he thinks I've been angry a lot, and I'm sure he'd noticed, because the thing is, I'm not generally as a real angry person. The reason is, that I used to be real angry like 20 or 30 years ago, and I worked through all of that, and I let that all come up to the surface, and I dealt with it. And if you're curious about how I did that, I did it through writing poetry. So yeah, I don't know if that would work for you. I'm not saying it was good poetry, by the way. Some of it was good, some of it was probably pretty bad, but that's okay, because it was, therapeutic in nature. That's why I was doing it. Sometimes, though, you can produce some good art along the way in your therapy. I'll just say that. But yeah, so this anger was coming up, and it was really deep. But what I realized laying in bed there, because I wanted to sort of process this, and I started asking my guides, what the hell is going on here? And I knew this shift was triggering it. That helps, by the way. I think that helps to know that, there's something in the cosmos that you're a part of, and that, this isn't just you having it, that all of nature is experiencing it, or all of the cosmos on some level, in some degree. So I asked my guides about this. I was like, where is this rage coming from, this sudden rage? And as I tuned into it, I started to feel into the different parts of the anger, and I realized that some parts of it were mine, like the parts about being angry about the losses in the last 2 years, and deteriorations in lifestyles and things like that. But then some parts of that anger were not mine. And I was feeling angry about things that were my ancestresses. Okay, hear me out. Like, these were my mother and my grandmother, which I really didn't even know my grandmothers. I mean, I was very young when they were born, so I don't remember them well. And their mother, I mean, I could just feel in my bones that this was activating the ancestral angers, especially on the female line. And that makes sense, really, with Mars conjunct Uranus and the North Node in Taurus. Because, again, we're dealing with a feminine earth sign. This is not to say that it couldn't activate, ancestral memories in the male side. Because I think earth energy in general is just the ancestors. But looking at Taurus, and Taurus being kind of fertile, life-giving sign, it very much is connecting to that, feminine fertility, and also male. So yeah, a lot of that's coming up right now. A lot of unprocessed anger. And I think at least, I mean, a lot of you have heard of empathy. A lot of you are, I hope, you're aware that you can pick up on other people's energies and emotions, right, around you. People that are around you currently in the environment. So some of what I was processing was also that. But I'm telling you that largely it was in my ancestral and family line. And then I think some of it was, anger that I had taken on from my friends and clients to carry for them. And then I had to process it. And listen, if you're going to take on other people's energies, I don't recommend it actually, but sometimes I do it on purpose to help lift it from another person. but you have to be really strong to do that and really healthy and well yourself on all levels. And you're going to have to deal with it. You will pay a price for that, okay? Like, I was kind of paying that the other morning. But I do think I moved through it. Here's what's interesting. The world will give you signs. I had some Zoom meetings that morning for some group stuff that I'm doing in a kind of spiritual and business realm, a combination of both. And my Zoom room is upstairs where my reading room is. It's kind of, well, it's not even just a whole room, it's sort of a section. But anyway, up there, there's some plants, and somehow the wasp like my plants up there. I mean, I like the plants out here, so I guess they just like plants. But I noticed there was a wasp earlier. And a wasp, okay, I don't know what you know about that totem-wise, but I know a little bit about it because I had a wasp totem a year or two ago. I had this whole encounter where I got bit by a wasp. Have you ever been bit by a wasp? That is no fun. And I'm kind of in the semi-allergic category, not code red allergic, but yeah, it can really hurt, and I have to, do some treatments for that. I do home remedy treatments because I can. I'm not in the red. If you're in the red alert, go to the hospital, take care of it. But yeah, wasp bite can be pretty serious if you have allergies to it. So I did survive, obviously, but I learned a little bit about the wasp totem, and it's considered a very strong female Amazon type energy, very assertive, a feminine energy defending its young, defending its totem, because I guess what I learned, at least, and maybe some of you know more about than me, but I learned that typically it's the females that sting, which kind of makes sense to me, being a female. So, and they only sting when they feel threatened. So, and they can be a sign, the wasp totem can be a sign of female anger, but also taking on that female warrior aspect and standing up for yourself, and maybe also processing that anger, dealing with it. Not like in a crazy way, not like you're going to go and lash out and hurt people in your life sort of way, but in an intelligent, thoughtful, and wise way. There are ways to deal with anger without hurting people in your life. You don't always think of them, but I mean, you can go outside and yell at the top of your lungs or beat on a drum. I don't really like to abuse my drums that way, but maybe you have one drum for this. Maybe that's that drum's karma. Okay. But anyway, there was a wasp when I was trying to do my meeting, and she looked like she was trying to get out the window, which the window doesn't open very easily there, and plus it's 2 stories up. So I got her in a jar and I took her outside, and then get this all happened within an hour. There were 3 more wasps separately. I found another one up by the window. Okay, I'll take that one out. That was a little bit harder to catch. It must have been younger. That first one wanted to go out. The second one, not so much, but I got it in the jar and got it out. And then I found another one, on the stairwell there, because it kind of splits, moves, and it didn't look like it was functioning so good, but I think it needed heat. It needed to go outside, so I picked it up, and then there was another one. So a total of 4 wasps I found after having this release of anger. So I knew that was the universe's sign, that I was on the right track with this, that I was dealing with collective anger. And so I took them out, and then I felt better. So I felt the anger had been released, and I let it go, right? I let it go into nature. The wasps were a symbol of that. And for me, that works well to release in nature, to just be in nature. That, for me, I even imagine the anger sometimes just draining out of my body, or, not even just anger. I have this thing I do called releasing excess energy. So whatever you're feeling, maybe you're feeling sorrow, maybe you're feeling sadness, which, by the way, as I meditated on it and I went into my ancestors' pain, the female ancestors, I could feel that underneath their anger there was sadness and disappointment. They were disappointed by the people in their lives, the men, their children, the life situations, the history. There was a lot of the historical disappointment and, feeling held back by laws or by social, rules. Does any of that sound familiar with what might be going on right now? You know, could there be some reactivation of that feeling? Okay, I don't want to make this a political video, but you know what I'm talking about if you're watching this now. Yeah, so a lot of that's coming back up. You know, the Mars aspect of this will be, so that the anger really getting triggered will be strongest. I mean, if you look at the degrees, it's probably going to be strongest between now and August 8th. Some people are saying up to August 15th. And then Mars kind of moves, it definitely moves a lot faster than Uranus. So it will move on, but Uranus will continue to conjunct the North Node in Taurus at 18 degrees Taurus. So I imagine that we'll continue to work with seeking freedom and liberation within ourselves, within society. Values are changing because of Taurus, and hopefully we'll keep leaning towards our feminine energies, whatever our genders are or however we identify. We want to lean towards the yin energies because energies are polarized. Yin and yang is, you know, a phenomenon. Now, it's not all perfect yin or yang, and you know, you can look at the gray areas, and there are a lot of grays. Okay, actually, I'm not talking about the aliens either. I'm talking about the grays of yin and yang, like yin and yang. You know, yin yin, yang yang, yin yang, so on. But yes, there are times to tap into more of the yin energies, the feminine, the caring, and looking at, you know, a more sustainable way of living in our relationships with each other, with ourselves, with our energy. You know, not driving ourselves all the time because that's not sustainable. And also not driving the earth all the time, not overusing it, not pushing her. You know, I mean, no wonder she gets pissed off with her. You know, we're taking so much out sometimes without giving back. We've even forgotten old ceremonies where we used to pour libations and give food offerings. You know, those are important. You may not know that. You may not remember that consciously, but somewhere in your DNA you do know that. So yeah, if you wanted to do something constructive to help balance these energies for the planet, for, you know, not just humanity, but for nature, for the cosmos, think about giving back to Mother Earth and how you can do that. Just think about her, send her love. Maybe, you know, make some libations, but libations are pouring wine or, well, it depends, wine or juice or milk or things like that, water even. Food offerings, well, you know what a food offering is, more or less, right? Giving back thanks. I mean, how many days this year have you given your thanks to Mother Earth? Have you even acknowledged her? I mean, no wonder she's pissed off. Do we acknowledge her? Yeah, I think we should. I think we better if we want to continue to exist as a species. All right. Until next time, I'm Psychic Cynthia, wishing you much strength, much fortitude, and much peace as possible as we navigate these rather interesting energies. Right, blessings.